Hi there. Today I'm filming you a yin yoga practice themed around spring or around early spring. So we're here in early March when I'm filming this in Scotland. So it's still very cold and rather wintry, but we have a few signs of spring coming in. So where you are in the world, it might be a little bit different, but the poses that I'm going to do are going to be great just if you're in that space where you want to stretch a little bit but not exert too much energy. So we're going to run through a few different poses, and I'm going to use quite a few different props for this class. So I'm going to use this bolster. If you don't have a bolster, a couple of big cushions, couch cushions, or firm pillows would be fine. A little blanket or a towel would be really useful. I've also got a couple of blocks here. If you don't have blocks, then just something sort of sturdy and solid, like maybe a hardback book, or even just actually like a small stool or some extra pillows would be absolutely fine. All we're using the props for is just to make the poses a little bit more accessible so that we can really relax into them. So with yin yoga, we will be holding the poses for around 2 to 3 minutes at a time. So you want to be able to relax in the pose and use as little effort as possible. If you feel like your breath is getting short or you're having to make an effort to hold the pose, if you feel like you're having to activate muscles to stay in the pose, then I suggest you pull back a little bit, do less with the pose, don't stretch as far as you think that you would be able to if you're doing an active stretch, and use more pillows, more cushions, more blocks to support your body so that you can do less effort. We do this because with yin yoga, we're really targeting the fascia, this connective tissue network that runs through the whole body, rather than focusing on the muscles. So in order for the fascia to become loose and soft again, you need to just very gently stretch it rather than kind of tugging it and pulling it. Okay, let's get started. We're going to come into a side sphinx first of all. So a side sphinx, if I was doing without any props, would just look something like this. Or you might want to bring your knees together and tuck your feet back behind you to make it a bit more accessible. You could add a blanket underneath your knees, or I quite like the blanket underneath my hips because the floor can be quite hard for holding this for a long period of time. The other thing I like to do is actually use the bolster here. You absolutely don't have to. I really like to just prop myself up on it a little bit, really targeting the side of the body here, so getting a nice stretch through the side of the waist and down the left side of the body, all along the left side of the leg. And as I said, we want to be able to just relax in this pose for a minute or two. So take some time to adjust your props before you come into this pose. You can have your hand along your leg, or you could hand it lightly in front of you for balance. And then once you've found a version of this pose that's comfortable for you, just start to settle in. Allow yourself to kind of sag, the right word? Relax a little bit. It's okay if the shoulder comes up. Don't worry about it. Focus instead on starting to breathe deeply into your abdomen, into the sides of your ribs, and starting to still your mind. So if you've had a busy day, if you're doing this at the end of the day, or you're doing it before the start of a busy day and your mind is racing, and you start to focus in on your breath, on the sound of my voice, or the sounds around you in your space, maybe on the quality of light in the room that you're practicing in, the temperature of the air. There's a breeze, can you feel it on your skin? Noticing if there are any scents that you can pick up, Maybe a nice candle or smell of coffee. Can you taste anything? Just coming to be present in this particular moment and bringing your awareness to this particular moment. This kind of stillness can be quite difficult to cultivate if we're not used to it. I definitely struggled with this when I was working as an academic. I was busy all the time. There was always more to do, more emails, more students. I was commuting. I was trying to read or teach. And it was quite hard to still my mind or just come into stillness, to hold a pose for a couple of minutes in this way. So if you struggle with this, please don't judge yourself. Extend some compassion, recognize that if you're busy, if you're rushing, then that's what your brain is used to doing. It's used to being busy and it's used to rushing. But as we rest in these poses, as we focus on our awareness, you will find yourself more able to become still and to quiet your thoughts. We're going to shift onto the other side. Let's do this just by rolling onto our tummies. Just take a moment here, just in the standard sphinx, just to give yourself a little bit of a break. Pulling your shoulders back here, resting your pelvis, letting your legs be really heavy. And then we'll come over to the other side. So just find your position again, adjust your props, take your time to find a position that works for you. And once you've found it, just settle in again and come back to your breathing. If your thoughts are starting to wander because my voice has stopped, you could draw your attention back to your breath. You could come back to being aware and mindful. Another option would be to just start to observe your thoughts, to notice them come and go, to recognize that they are just thoughts. Your brain is collating information from the day, it's problem solving, it's planning. And rather than fusing too directly with them or giving them too much attention, just notice them as they come and as they go, not placing too much weight or importance on them. Just allowing yourself to be still and not reactive for a little while. Let's start to come out of this just in the same way we did before. Gently coming over onto your tummies. Bring the forearms down. Let's just pause in a sphinx for a moment. Just really allow your hips, your pelvis, your legs, your low back to relax down towards the mat. And then to come out of this pose, we'll place both hands on the mat and press into the hands, press into the knees, moving nice and slowly, coming back onto your heels. All right, for our next pose, I'm going to use the blocks. You don't need to use them. What I'm going to do is just prop my bolster on the blocks, just to bring it closer to me when I'm taking the pose, which is a straddle pose. You may not need to do this, or you could just have a couple of pillows piled on top of one another. I'm also going to bring the blanket underneath my hips. I'm just going to wiggle myself close up to these props, bring that blanket under, and then coming into a straddle pose. So both legs going out, toes pointing up towards the ceiling. And I'm just going to gently bring myself towards the props and move the props towards me. And what's quite a nice option here is just to place one hand on the other. And bring your forehead down. If that feels too far away, you could make little fists. Alternatively, you could hold your bolster and bring your forehead down. You could use more props to bring it up a little bit higher. So just experiment with where you want to be. We're going to hold this for a few minutes. And then gently coming into the position that works for you. One that you can hold easily and breathe deeply. So all of our yin yoga poses in this practice are targeting the liver and gallbladder meridians, which are traditionally associated with spring, the season of spring, of emerging from winter, of kind of purifying and cleansing after being indoors for months. So we're really thinking a lot about the low back, up around the liver, and from the soles of the feet up the sides of the body. So as you hold this pose, allowing yourself to be still, and allowing yourself to sink into it a little bit more. Can you ease off tension from your hips, through your hamstrings, through your quads? Just really allow your hips to be heavy, to be sinking into the mat or into the blanket. Allowing your spine to naturally curve. Relaxing your tummy, not holding anything in. Just allowing gravity to do the work for us.
We're going to come out of this pose very slowly. Begin with just very gently curling back up into a straight spine. So take your time, just moving vertebrae by vertebrae. You could press your hands into your props a little bit, until you're back up sitting straight on top of your hips and your pelvis, and then maybe use your hands to lift your knees. Bring yourself up out of this straddle pose. I take the props out of the way. Staying sitting on my blanket, I'm going to bring the soles of my feet together. You can choose how close or how far away you'd like these to be. You can bring them in quite far if you want to keep stretching through the inner groin and the inner of the legs here. Or you can bring them a little bit further away, which will give you more of a stretch on the outside of the hips, which is what I'm going to do. You could just relax here back into a forward fold, palms pointing towards the ceiling, just naturally rounding. If you'd like a more supported pose, you could use the blocks or another prop, just to gently bring your forehead down so that you can really rest in the pose. So adjust and find the position that works for you. Remembering that you don't want the most intense stretch here. You want to dial back the intensity from what you could do. And if we call that 100%, you want to be down between 50 and 70% of what you could do. And these forward folds and twists are also really wonderful for the nervous system. So gently bringing us back into rest and digest, our parasympathetic nervous system. So if you're a little bit frazzled, a little bit stressed, if winter's been quite long for you, you're feeling like you're struggling a bit with overwhelm, these poses should also be helpful for your recovery from that feeling of overwhelm. You're going to come out of this slowly again. Bring your hands down so that you can push your hands gently into the ground or into your feet. Slowly lift your head and then walk your hands back in, supporting yourself. Gently straighten your spine. We'll just straighten our legs. Just give them a little shimmy, maybe rock side to side a little bit. And we're going to come down on our backs now. So you can lift the blanket out of the way, lowering yourself down. Just take your time, come down on your back. Maybe take a moment just to stretch everything out while you're here. Get really long for a moment. And then maybe bringing the knees into the chest, squeeze them in. You could rock a little bit side to side, just massaging the low back. See how you're feeling. And then we'll come into a reclined twist. Lots of options here again. Moving your hips to the right, you could bring the knees up, drop them to one side, bring the arm out. You could cross the knees, loop the feet, and again, bring them over to the side. What I'm going to do is actually stretch out my left leg, bring my right knee into the chest, and then guide it over until I can find the bolster. And I'm also going to put a block underneath my knee, so I'm taking a much gentler, more supported twist here. Just gently weighing my knee down with my hand. You absolutely don't need to do that. Stretching my right arm out beside me. And then just coming back into my breath, really allowing my left leg to relax. Letting my hips relax, letting my shoulders get heavy on the mat. Starting to find my breath in my abdomen again. Just noticing this gentle stretch all the way from the tips of my outstretched right arm, all the way down that arm, through the underarm, down the side of the waist, into the hip, my IT band, down my right leg. With every exhale, just trying to relax a little bit more into the props and into the mat. Noticing your thoughts, and noticing now that we're further along with our practice, what do your thoughts sound like? What's the tone of your thoughts? Are they racing and fast? Have they slowed down a little bit? Is there any judgment of you for taking this time, of doing such a slow yoga practice? It's just worth observing what comes up for us in these moments of stillness. Often it can be really insightful just to notice maybe there's a little bit of self-criticism or shaming coming up, or maybe some emotions that we didn't know were present. And just being able to practice meeting those thoughts and meeting those emotions with gentleness, with compassion, acknowledging their right to be there, but also not allowing them to dominate and dictate how we feel about ourselves or how we're going to conduct ourselves for the rest of the day. Gently come out of this position, Just support your knee as you roll onto your back. Take a little stretch here. Hips flat on the mat, stretch the legs out, and we'll go to the other side straight away. So move any of props across. And then shifting the hips a little bit to the left, stretching out the right leg, and or taking whichever version of the twist you like. If you're doing it this way, bringing the left knee across, finding the props to make it comfortable, stretching the left arm out to the side, and relaxing back into it again, coming back to that steady, deep breath, allowing the body to be heavy, allowing the floor and the props to be supportive. Just notice if any tension has crept in whilst you've been holding this pose. You allow yourself to relax a little bit more. Noticing again that nice stretch all the way from the left fingertips, through the armpit, down the side of the body and through the left hip, and the side of the left leg and the IT band. Breathing into the fascia, breathing into this gentle stretch, letting the rest of your body get heavy. Coming out of this pose, just gently support your knee, rolling onto your back. Take your time. Again, let's maybe take a little stretch here. Bring the knees into the chest. We're going to move into our final yin pose before Shavasana. So I'm going to bring the bolster underneath my knees now. Just position it underneath your knees, and then I'm going to take one block, or you could use a small pillow or a rolled up towel. I'm just going to place it underneath my shoulder blades. So it's around where the bottom of my belt strap is. Just adjust, find a comfortable position where the upper back is fully supported, but the low back is free. I'm also going to take the towel or the blanket, I'm going to roll it and place it underneath my neck for a bit of extra support to make this even more comfortable. And then you can leave your legs straight, but what I'm going to do is bring my feet together back into that butterfly shape with the bolster supporting my knees, relaxing my arms out wide, taking a moment to adjust, make any little adjustments that you need. And then this is a pose which you can really feel into your breathing. We're opening up through the front of the shoulders, the front of the throat, all the way through the front planes of the body, through the hips, through the groin. You can breathe deeply into your abdomen, feeling the rise and fall. Allowing your legs to get heavy, your upper back and your head and the backs of your arms to get heavy. There's also a really nice opportunity to just loosen your jaw a little bit. So if you have been holding a lot of tension through your jaw, you just really allow your jaw to relax and unhinge in this position. You've got this slight traction with the head dropping back. Just allow that slight weightlessness to loosen up through your jaw, maybe keeping your teeth slightly parted, relaxing your tongue in your mouth. You notice anything like increase of saliva or swallowing, maybe your tummy gurgling, or your breath getting slower, or a slight sigh. These are all signs of parasympathetic activation, so release through the nervous system, coming back into our rest and digest. If you notice those, really relax into them, allowing yourself this time to be still, to be at rest, to take time out. We're going to gently come out of this pose now. So to start with, just bring your feet flat on the mat. You can interlace your hands, bring them behind the back of the head, just cradling the head to help yourself come up. Your arms down beside you, just enough to lift the props out the way. You might want to leave the towel or the blanket so that you can bring your head back down on it. We're going to move the bolster out of the way, and we'll just kind of come down flat on our backs. And allow yourself to really spread out here now. So spreading the arms away from the body, letting the feet roll out, the hips be loose. Taking a big breath, letting it go, noticing how your body feels now. You could do a little body scan from the top of your head through your jaw, neck, your shoulders, your chest and upper back, your rib cage, down into your abdomen, your hips and low back, your glutes, your legs, all the way down to your feet. Allowing yourself a couple of minutes here in Shavasana just to let your body integrate, and that gentle stretching just to consolidate through the body. Taking some time to breathe, be still, not rushing to go back on with our busyness now that we've finished stretching, but taking a moment just to enjoy the luxury of not doing anything. If you'd like to stay in Shavasana longer, absolutely encourage you to do so. If you're ready to come out, just bring your feet to the mat. Roll onto your right hand side, gently using your arms to press yourself up into a seated position. Taking your time, settling, becoming still for a moment. Noticing the shifts and changes in your body from doing that practice. Yin yoga is a very, very subtle practice. As you practice it, you really do notice the improvements it makes in your flexibility and in your overall health and well-being. So I hope you enjoyed this practice and that you'll practice with me again.